All right, welcome back to our coaching network again. I am Pat Curran here, one of the co-founders. Today is National Signing Day. So we're not talking to any college coaches or high school coaches. We're going to the pros. Coach TJ Verneri, he is the tight ends coach at the USFL's New Orleans Breakers, and we are talking advantages of quads formations. I'm excited to hear this. Very interesting one. TJ, go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, for sure. Pat, again, thanks again for having me on the show and everything. This is a great opportunity. I know it's kind of an unconventional thought process, but again, me as being a prospective young coach in the industry, I think it's just something that I think could bring something really great to the table. So again, thank you for this opportunity. I was previously with the Calgary Stampeders in the CFL, and I'd like to highlight that because as I get into this, there's a little bit of different strategy and components that go into the CFL versus, right, 11 on 11 USFL, XFL, NFL, those things. So again, let me just kind of jump into it. So I'm sitting there at the AFCA convention in 2020, or I'm sitting there in 2020, and I meet some of the guys that eventually became my coworkers of the Stampeders. And again, those guys led me to my head coach. I got that opportunity. So now I'm sitting back as I was the wide receivers coach at Lycoming College, and I said to myself, hey, what's going to make me different one day if and when I have the opportunity to become a play caller? What's going to separate me from other people? And it took upon myself that I got this clip from our video guy at the Stampeders. This is actually before I became a member of the Stampeders. And again, this is why I bring it up in my background before I joined the Breakers. But I bring this clip up because this is a huge inspiration for me in terms of my personal strategy and what's made me different. So kind of some key points here on this is that I don't know if you guys notice in the CFL, it's a obviously significantly larger field, right? The hashes are wider, the field is longer, but there's 12 individuals on the field. So it's 12 on 12. This team on defense is actually the team that I used to be a part of. This clip is obviously before I became a part of the Calgary Stampeders. But I want you to focus on the offense of the BC Lions. And this clip is from 2019 right here, right? And then as you can see, there's a variety of different of motions and shift rules that you can do in the CFL. So these guys are getting a running start as they get going. Really what happened to me was as I got this clip and I talked through some of these things in my head was, what happens if we eliminate running back? So right here, we just take them out of the picture. Now it's 11 on 11 football, and I just have a quad formation. I have four receivers to my right, and I have a single isolated receiver to the left. I said, oh, that's something interesting. Now, I've never played or coached an offense that lives heavily in this type of world, but I said to myself, wait a second, this could be something that is a unique, different idea. So as I went through it, and as you really look at the routes developed right here, this is as simple as it gets as a high stick concept. It's just with a layered too high reader in the middle there. And I'll get to that once I get into that final drawing. So again, you have 6 eligibles here in this picture. So again, I ended up calling this concept Yankee, which I'll get to in 1 second, right? As you guys can see my drawing right here. So this has grown into something personal to me. And then I just call the concept Yankee. But like I said, we have a layered 1 high and 2 high beater with this concept right here, because we have our Y stick component that we all know and love, right? Stick, flat, go. But now you have the stacked receiver behind, kind of that Tampa 2, like short middle spot you want to beat. But then you also have this individual route here. So again, I wanted to create the focus on having 5 eligibles, and I'm more or less right on the unbalanced quads world that we see a lot in college football, and I want to focus more on having 5 eligible receivers all the time there. But the reason I bring all of this up, right, and this is kind of the theory that I got into. So again, for me, most recently, I just made the 35 under 35 list for 2023, and a lot of what I wrote about is some of the stuff that I talked about with you guys just now. So in my head, every defense has a check, right? Every team has a bunch check. Your defense is an empty check. And you know over the course of a game that you're going to see that. So our team's going to go cover 1 to trips with the running back inside of the X to the whatever side that may be, left or right, FSL, FIB, whatever you want to call it. But every team has a bunch check, right? They're going to treat bunch the same over the course of the game. Could there be adjustments? Absolutely. But you can get these teams to live into these base checks just by these formation families. So really the third thing I want to talk about now and highlight over the course of this presentation is quads, because we have so many teams that live in bunch, right? They love those formations. They return to those. They motion to it. They shift to it, right? You have teams that love to be in empty. But how often do we truly see in 11 on 11 football that teams align 4 receivers to one side, right? So I just think that's something that's different and unique, and something I certainly want to highlight. So really, like I said, much of with these checks here, I want to highlight that every team kind of has these checks that they live in, right? And to me, it comes down to two basic philosophies, right? That check can either be a zone coverage, right? You're either going to get zone or man, okay, at the end of the day. But zone coverages that you see are going to be increasingly more simple than what you see in a basic 2-by-2 formation or 3-by-1, because that's when I believe defenses can really get creative and kind of create their mismatches, because it's a very typical formation that we know and love, right? So bunch and empty get them a little bit uncomfortable, right? I have to get into those checks, whatever it may be for that specific defensive coordinator. So for me, you manipulate zone coverage, get a very simple zone to deal with, and capitalize on individual matchups. Because as I get into this presentation, we'll have 4 receivers to one side, and you'll be able to highlight a playmaker, one specific guy on that isolated side, and even more so than you would in a 3-by-1 formation, because now the running back is essentially a receiver who pushes more people to that side. So those are really the purpose of this and what I want to talk about as we go forward. Okay, so let's start with our first category here in manipulating zone coverage. So, and again, I touch my notes here because I want to make sure you guys have the exact times that these occurred. So this is the 2016 Kansas City Chiefs against the Indianapolis Colts. So right now, the Chiefs align in this formation that I personally call bucket, okay? It's bunch with the running back outside, right? Running back, H player, however you want to call it. And you guys will see my Vizio drawing once
Can
we
you
get
slightly
through.
move that the bottom box is covering that
Yes,
single receiver to the bottom? Yep.
yes. Is this better for you guys?
No, it's wider for some reason.
Uh, but that?
That's better to see the beginning of the formation, yes, because then we can see all
Yes.
the eligibles. Go ahead.
Okay, great. All right, let me get back into this. Okay, so I personally call this formation bucket, and the Chiefs align in this, right? So as I roll the tape here, they don't motion to it, they don't shift to it, they truly align into it. So my theory is that the Colts, right, the Indianapolis Colts defense, they have to give out their answer. They have to dictate their terms because the Chiefs have essentially dealt them their hand. It's quads. How are you going to align in it? So the theory that I've developed here is that the Colts end up in this too high shell. Basically, they just run cover two. It's pretty simple. And what I say about cover two, like cloud safeties, okay, is they have to get depth and then eventually declare their half. So I'll actually draw that for you guys here. They get depth and then they declare. So depth, then declare. At some point, they have to declare what half of the field, right, they're going to protect. They're not just going to buzz out here. Some coaches could teach that, but they're going to get a pedal and then they'll declare their half. So let me clear this here. Okay, so now we're back to rolling the film. Okay, so cover two right here, all right, as you can see, the strong safety, the guy I just highlighted, he's getting a ton of depth. And I think what gets lost in translation is these 4 receiver concepts, someone always gets lost. Right? So at this point in time, okay, the cloud corner here at the top, okay, cloud corners will carry vertical routes until the point of no return that they hand them off to the safety that is declared as half. So at this point in time, cloud corner really, right, he has to carry that vertical and then kind of react back to his true flat. Now we see from the strong safety as he's getting depth. At what point in time does the strong safety take his eyes to that receiver, the number 1 receiver to the 4 receiver side? He loses him completely, right? He declares his half late. So now you have this 8 yards of separation, whatever that may be, again, for the sake of the picture, but you have this huge separation because the safety is late in getting to this picture here. Right? And then all you see is a easy touchdown, untouched Tyreek Hill walking into the end zone. So as you can see right here, it's a miscommunication between the two right here, the right cornerback and the strong safety. But with that 4-by-1 formation, again, knowing that the Colts have to live in a basic zone coverage, the Chiefs know they can manipulate and attack the weaknesses like right here, and knowing that this strong safety is late in declaring his half. So I love this clip. I think this is an awesome job, obviously, by the Kansas City Chiefs scoring a touchdown. But you get a very vanilla basic zone coverage that honestly, when you see true, right, you see true 2-by-2 formations where it's tight end, flanker, and just the slot, you're going to get defenses rotate. You're going to get defenses play combination coverage. You force the hand of the defense to not live in those worlds and be less creative in this regard, right? Because you get a simple cover 2 defense. So I drew this up here for you guys, and I think you should be able to see it. But again, I call this formation bucket, but this is what the Chiefs essentially did, right? They have this kind of dig out, all right, dig flat with a spot route, and then they have the isolation side back here, right, with the X receiver. And then Tyreek Hill scored on was just a cloud conversion right here. So again, it was a great job by them right there. And I love that concept. Okay, so I want to highlight another zone, okay, because we're still in the zone coverage category here, right, in this clinic. This formation I call barrel, right, bucket and barrel. I kind of pair them together, but it's just bunch with the each receiver, right, and again, in terms of my verbiage, isolated in the 4x1 side. He's the most wide guy here. So now what you see right here is the Miami Dolphins, and again, this is from 2013, so this is a little bit back in the archives. And I apologize to the college coaches in this clinic because it's only NFL clips for this. So, but again, there's so many great examples in college football as well. But as you can see, the 2013 New York Jets right here, okay, they align in barrel, but now they align, all right, in FSL, FIB, whatever your terms are, formation sideline, FSL. I hear that more in terms of pros. I hear more FIB formation into the boundary and in the college vernacular. So as you can see right here, we have a one high structure. Again, what the Miami Dolphins are doing, they're playing cover three. They don't even rotate into this. They align into it and they're assigned to it. So what you see right here, right, you see right here is that the Miami Dolphins lose the number 4 receiver, which is Santonio Holmes right here. Okay, so this free safety obviously is responsible for the deep middle. Okay, he has to still get depth and have eyes, right, for this guy. So at some point he gets carried away by the dig. He has to react, right? So maybe it's a little bit of a combination of miscommunication between both of these guys. At the end of the day, the free safety has to see the ball thrown, right? Geno Smith is kind of giving this one away. He kind of point and shoots in terms of his progression. I don't think he ever takes his eyes to the isolation side. So he's working this zone component because the Dolphins are already in cover 3. So you can be in the headset and easily say, hey, Geno, it's cover 3. We know we're going to get our number 4 guy here on the vertical because this free safety has poor eyes in reacting these formations. So I love this play too. Love this play right here. This is a great job. And again, throwing him open, because the free safety does react, but he's so late. So now you have even more space. You have more space in this play versus that cover 2 one that we saw the Chiefs run. So again, huge on isolating this vertical right here, which I think is great. But again, late eyes from now the free safety where it was the strong safety previously. So another great example right there. Okay, and again, I drew this up for you guys. I just love drawing in Visio. I personally enjoy that as well. But like I said, we highlight the F receiver because the free safety, right, he gets lost and carried away by this basic, this dig, whatever you want to call it right there. All right, so now kind of the next component to this, right, as we move on through, we talked about zone coverage, but now how do we highlight individual matchups? Because now we can create a world that say, okay, we know that this team, we get aligned into quads or 4x1 sets. We know that we're going to get cover 1, cover 0, right? Man-based defenses that we can highlight certain individuals that we know give us great opportunities and matchups as we move on forward. All right, so this example right here, this is from the 2020 Los Angeles Chargers. So it's obviously in the red zone right here. Obviously in the red zone. So we're going to see way more man than we do in zone coverage in the red zone from an offensive perspective, scouting a defense, right? So to me, in my eyes, I viewed this as cover 1. Now we'll see as we roll through it. I viewed him as kind of the middle guy. But again, for the sake of argument, we know it's a man-based defense. So we want to highlight someone individually. So I want you guys to take your eyes, right? I want everyone to take our eyes to the top of the screen here is this right here. So this player right here is Donald Parham. He played in the XFL. I loved him. I loved his XFL tape. I think this guy is really special, and he's awesome on the Los Angeles Chargers. He's currently on their roster right now. He stands at 6'8", and I think he's a really impressive tight end, and that's obviously something that you'll want to highlight. So this guy's really good in the red zone. Now, the defensive back he's going against is Isaiah Johnson. He stands at 6'2". So there's a 6-inch difference there. Now, if this was any other cornerback, now the average size of an NFL corner is probably in the range of 5'10" to 5'11". Now they have a bigger dude to make up for this matchup. Still, 6'8" guy is going to win just about any matchup that he gets, right? Especially if he's got great ball skills. So really what the Raiders kind of get lost in the sauce on here is all this eye candy, right? And I call this formation just quad left. Right. And you can personnel it with, say, whatever, 11, add a different word to switch people in those positions. Okay. So really, this is a Y tight end, okay, playing that X position. Okay. So again, you create the eye candy right here of the 4 receiver set, and then you isolate this matchup you want. Right. So as we roll it, okay, Justin Herbert never takes his eyes even on this smoke screen to Keenan Allen right here. He just throws a touchdown pass because he's like, hey, you're in the headset, right? Hey, Justin, you're going to get cover one here. Throw the fade to Donald Parham. He's 6'8", right? That's a very easy and fun world to live in when you have these type of matchups right here, right? And he just wins on the fade. Completely wins on the fade. Great ball. Great positioning right here for Donald Parham. And again, he just goes up and gets it because he's got 6 inches. And like I said, if he was against maybe a shorter guy, the differentiation there is even bigger. Like I said, when you get all this eye candy, we get all this down here, it takes so much attention away from a matchup like this. So you can truly capitalize and create something special, right, with that type of matchup. And again, when I do my Visio drawings here for, again, my personal stuff, I like to draw the end zone so you get kind of spacing. Plus, it's kind of cool to draw all that. I just think it's nice. You can design something cool. But like I said, just throwing a simple fade there in the end zone to a guy that's 6'8" is something that'll get you a great job. All right, so this last clip here that I have for talking about, again, we're in the man coverage world. So now we start into our bunch world, which was one of the first categories that I talked about in terms of my essay, my thought process here that I did for the 35 under 35. So now we have bunch, empty, kind of compiled into one. We're going to motion to quads here. All right, so this is 2020. This is the Minnesota Vikings against the Detroit Lions. Now, post motion right here, and this is Justin Jefferson, right? So he's a marquee player. He's an incredible player. So we treat this as, right, treated this kind of similar what the Raiders did. Now they motion to this. So in my notes, I say adjust to cover one, right? Again, that's just for myself. They adjust to cover one. So they could have been in something before, right? But we don't know until the motion occurs that someone travels. So this is your post player right here. So now, again, you could be in the headset, hey, Kirk, because right, this is Kirk Cousins right here. Very good. NFL quarterback, hey, Kirk, we know it's cover one. We're going to pick a matchup we like. All right. So at the end of the day, we look back at this, I think Justin Jefferson was something they were trying to highlight. Now they kind of sort this out pretty well with the in and out at the top between these 3-on-3 kind of going on here. Where the matchup for me begins, is right here. I'll circle this for you guys right now. It's running back right here. Number 31 is Amir Abdullah. He's going to go against Reggie Ragland. So he's going to get handed off, and these two guys are going to kind of mess up their communication there, right? Because only one of them goes with them, which is fine, which is what the defense wants, but they kind of get unsorted here, right? So right now you have Amir Abdullah, right? And they set the pick because you have this mesh concept, right, against a running back. And it's kind of an easy progression for Kirk Cousins because as you can see, he's looking here the whole time, right? So Justin Jefferson was clearly the thought process, and he works back in his progression to Amir Abdullah, who's against the running back who now got picked, right? Because we have that cover one plan going in because of motioning two quads, right? You get a matchup you want, and he walks in for a very nice and easy touchdown there. All right, again, a great play, great example, but you create all of that eye candy with the motion, two quads there in that thought process. Again, I like to draw the end zone for the sake of spacing. Right here, the red is obviously the motion occurring. The blue numbers are for the quarterback progression. Again, a great matchup here, which becomes, again, the X. You can personnel it differently for different guys to play different positions. So all of that really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But really, fellas, that's everything that I have in terms of my thought process there on some of these things. I don't like to talk for a ton of time, but I love the ideas of that quads can bring to the table. I know a lot of people get discouraged for how do I teach those formations necessarily. There is a way to format and make those formations special. I think it's very easy to teach as you progress, right? Because again, it's our typical 3x1, 2x2 concepts, but with a slight wrinkle, and you can tag those in your final concepts. So manipulating zone coverage, right? Easy zone coverage, so you can let these defensive coordinators kind of force their hand. You force their hand to be less creative, and then capitalizing on individual matchups that you know you can beat if that check is cover one, cover zero, that type of world. So Pat, that's everything I got, man.
That was great stuff. Any questions, anything else to add at all? What's the best way to contact you for people watching after the fact?
Yeah, anybody that wants to contact me, I would give me a follow on Twitter. My DMs are open. My Twitter is just my name, TJ Vernieri. No punctuation or anything in there, just TJ Vernieri. And I think you guys will probably mention me or something in the
we certainly will have you on Twitter, and you'll be on through the network. We'll tag you and all that stuff too.
Awesome.
Cool.
Great.
Really great stuff. I love it. Like we talked when you said, here's the concept I'm thinking of. I really like the concept.
Yeah.
I think guys will get a bunch out of it. And that's what we want to do here.
For sure. No doubt.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, DJ.
Anytime.